Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
I'm Mike, and I'm not entirely certain what's going on.
The set is very different. Did you change something up?
I didn't.
No, but when I showed up, there was a note from Anthony.
Whoa.
Did you let Anthony in?
Let him in?
Yeah.
Unsupervised? Look, I like the guy, but I'm not letting him wander around my house unsupervised.
Don't tell me he has a key.
I didn't give him one.
Key.
Does he have sticky fingers?
I mean, I've never actually touched his hand. I'm
mean,
concerned where it's been.
I mean, that guy...
That
look,
sounds right.
He's got some really weird friends. Have you met his friends?
The only person I've met who he calls a friend is you.
Oh, yeah.
Who keeps inviting him back. And then, I have to work that day.
Well, it's not the way I intended. It's just the way it works out.
Fool me once, shame on thee. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, like we have all these new dinosaurs we picked up, and they're just hiding behind the tiny ones. I mean, I got brontosauruses and stuff.
Why are the Marys? Why are
they wearing ponchos?
No, like I would understand. Yeah, I would understand if they were like completely veiled, because some
weird Lenten thing.
yeah. Some people veil their images really, really early, but they're wearing ponchos.
I'm sure there's an explanation for this.
Yeah. Notice he didn't say a good explanation.
I cannot speak for those things I do not know.
That's reasonable.
Let's see. I can't quite give baby
a
Jesus a little raptor toy.
Well,
we'll fix the scent later.
Yep.
Today, we are here to talk about Charlton Heston's...
I am Spartacus!
No.
It's people! Soylent Green is people!
All right, the other movie that Charlton Heston is
Charlton
known for.
Heston is not in Spartacus. That's Kirk Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
He is in Soylent Green.
It was the last minute. I couldn't remember.
So we are here to talk about Charlton Heston's epic film, The Ten Commandments.
And I'm very glad that Nate called it Charlton Heston's, because usually it's...
But that's what it says in the Technicolor screen.
Well, because usually it's called Cecil B. DeMille's Ten Commandments, which is totally confusing because 33 years earlier... So the Ten Commandments we're talking about is from 1956. 33 years earlier, in 1923, Cecil B. DeMille produced another movie also called The Ten Commandments.
And it's like Charlton Heston and then other names.
So the Ten Commandments has become, because it celebrates, it tells the story of the first Passover, it has become an Easter classic. It is on free TV every year. And it's important to note, The Ten Commandments is a fantastic movie. It's really long, but it's really, really good.
Apparently, my dad saw it in theaters, and they had an actual intermission.
Yes.
Because
You need it. Nobody has a bladder that strong.
Because Pharaoh had to let his people go.
Indeed. And he refused for so long. But it's a really good movie, but it's pretty rubbish theology.
Yeah.
And we're just going to point out a few deficiencies, which I think we need to draw out, because I think a lot of us, consciously or subconsciously, draw most of our Moses imagery from Charlton Heston. And draw most of our account of the 10 plagues and the 10 commandments from Charlton Heston.
I mean...
Again, it's a really good movie.
You're not wrong.
There are rarely illustrations in adult Bibles. Once you hit that 8 to 10,
Yep.
they stop putting in pictures everywhere.
Which
And they did a very good job of making Charlton Heston, at least later on in the film, look very much like all of the depictions in the children's picture books.
Well, I think it's
actually
yeah
a reverse, and everything just based.
Well, plus let's
Either way,
not discussing the man himself, but simply the screen presence. Amazing. He commands the screen.
He does,
which is really weird when you see him as a villain in The Killers. It's like, Chuck Heston, a bad guy. That's wild. Anyway, so the bad
God.
theology of the Ten Commandments.
The power to spread water on two sides and very, very not at all cheesy special effects.
For 1956, they were amazing. They barely had
Amazing.
computers then. Okay, so the first thing. There is a huge subplot in the Ten Commandments that does not appear even remotely in the scriptures, and it involves the Hebrew origin of Moses. Now, I totally understand why this is in the movie. You know, we're talking 11 years after the liberation of the concentration camps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're talking 8 years after the establishment of the State of Israel. You know, there was still far too much culturally accepted anti-Semitism about in American society at the time.
Fair.
Which we don't want to allow a resurgence today.
No.
But
realistically, any anti-Semitism is too much anti-Semitism.
Exactly. But it at no point is in the Bible is Moses not known to be a Hebrew. First of all, he is drawn out of the river. And then the Pharaoh's daughter says, "Oh, look, it must be one of the Hebrews' babies." And then his sister Miriam shows up and says, "Hey, would you like me to find a wet nurse for him?" "Yes, please. Go back to the Hebrews and get a wet nurse for him." So Moses was fed by his own mother, pretending not to be his mother. And finally...
Which must have been outrageously difficult.
Well, the important thing is he was safe, because they were killing the rest of the Hebrew boys.
Oh, I understand. I'm just saying,
So
you've
at
got to
least-
go and keep up the
Sure.
charade, lest it be found out.
Well, but not even that much of a charade. Yes, you just have to deny that he's your baby, but still, everyone knows it's a Hebrew baby.
Yes.
Yeah, and
No.
it's one of those things where it still would have made sense that, yes, he would actually probably have higher feelings for his own mother than the one who adopted him, because
Absolutely.
it was quite often the case that the nurse who was the one who actually did all the caring for the baby is who the kids cared about anyway.
Yeah, who the one the kid imprinted on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
then,
not a baby bird.
Yeah.
Unless we're doing a new heresy. Moses was a baby bird.
Discuss.
I don't know.
That's
People
why he
kinda-
split the sea, to get all the fishes easy.
He was a pelican. Nate?
I'm just gonna
I
ride with it.
got nothing. That's a cool cup.
So
Thank you.
cleaning is a bit of a pain. 'cause of
Cleaning
course
is a bit of a pain because you have to take the
electronics.
electronics out.
Oh. But it's worth it.
Yeah.
So, and the last thing is, he is given the name Moshe, which we, through Greek has been anglicized as Moses, which is a Hebrewism meaning he was drawn out of the water. He has a Hebrew name, and which acknowledges that he was drawn out of the river. He was known to be a Hebrew. So, sorry folks, you have to take that giant plot with, it's like half the movie.
I mean, but
Toss it out.
it is good for the storyline because it fits with the real life of, he killed the Egyptian and stuff, which just for a plotline story makes more sense of, oh no, I found out I'm not an Egyptian. I'm one of these people I've been treating like dirt my entire life because I thought I was a prince.
But he was trying to make their lives better.
Yes.
You see, the real problem that
But if he hadn't known that he was one, he'd be like the totally annoying teenager.
But see, the real problem that I have,
By then he was like way older. But
the real problem that I have with its existence in the Charlton Heston film is that then other films which are made to chronicle the Ten Commandments story go and draw from that rather than drawing from the rest of it. Because like there was one, I can't remember what it was, but it came out like when we were teenagers where it was animated.
Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, Prince of Egypt. And he didn't realize until like around the time when when the harming of the Egyptian slaver that he was in fact Jewish.
Well, yeah.
Hebrew.
Well, and that's an excellent point. The issue is not so much what's in the Ten Commandments, which if you acknowledge it simply as a Hollywood film which takes certain liberties is fine. But again, this, in the minds of many, many Christians, forms their predominant view of the Exodus story, more than the actual text itself.
Exactly.
So, part of the reason why you get these oddities is because the Ten Commandments I love the fact that there's this big introduction at the beginning talking about all the ministers that they contacted and all the historians trying to make this the most ecumenical thing possible. But they also drew from at least 3 novels. Prince of Egypt by Dorothy Clarke Wilson, Pillar of Fire by Joseph Holt Ingraham, and On Eagle's Wings by Arthur Eustace Southon.
So I don't like that. I don't like that last one just on the title.
They play at the end of a funeral.
He can't be blamed for the song. Okay, I'm not aware of him being the author of the song, so we can't blame the book. Anyway, it's a good biblical image, On Eagle's Wings. It's a terrible song. Terrible song. Do not have that at your funeral. But it's a good biblical image. So, there's also the problem of the overwhelming screen presence of Charlton Heston. We know that Moses first tries to weasel out of being the liberator by saying, I can't talk. No one's going to listen to me. I'm a mumbler. I stutter. Mm-hmm. Not trying to be insensitive to stutterers, but he's like, I can't be a public speaker. And God doesn't say, I will cure you of that. No, God says, you know who's a great public speaker? Your brother Aaron. Just tell him what to say and he'll be your mouthpiece.
See, I feel like the problem is they hadn't already established the how to go from a nerd to a hunk thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't somehow have him dressed up, in high pants and glasses so that they could just change his outfit and now he's good at it.
So you're suggesting that the Ten Commandments would have been better if it was the first version of She's All That.
No, I'm saying it would be able to put that in there because, you got to follow the movie tropes.
He needed the makeover montage.
But he wasn't ever made over. He remained not that guy. Like, we all love the image of, again, so much of our image of Moses is drawn from Charlton Heston and his performance, let my people go.
No, you're right. I mean, but at the same time, he kind of sort of tried to become that guy because you have the scene during the Exodus where his father-in-law has to go and tell him, look, you can't be everything to everyone. Grab some other guys and give them the job of doing some of your job. So
even Moses was trying to be Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I do feel sorry for the name Jethro because it also had problems like the biblical name Nimrod, where it just got typecast, and it's something that it not at all relates to.
Well, but we could also call him Rule, because he has that name too.
Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, you haven't discussed the most important part of a Charlton Heston, Ten Commandments. The most extreme freeze tag ever, where the angel of death literally has to follow. If you're behind this line when you put sheep's blood on, you're dead. If you're forced to work out extra long and you're clearly a Hebrew trying to rush to your home, too bad, zap.
You had time.
Well, you knew this was coming.
But again, I don't think that's necessarily inaccurate because the text is very clear that only those who had put the blood on the lintel of their door were protected. So just the fact that you're a Hebrew didn't protect you. If you didn't follow God's instructions, sacrifice the lamb and put the blood up with a hyssop,
to the letter,
curtains to your firstborn.
I'm just saying, the ones that are literally racing to their house where they already had everything, or the Egyptian who's just like, you know what, I'm just to be on the safe side, gonna stay in this doorway.
Yeah. Well, but think about the end of the world. There will come a time when the Lord comes again. And whether or not you're ready at that moment determines everything.
Yeah, I mean that is absolutely correct.
So, but that takes us into, so on some level they confront the difficulties in the Exodus account by showing the death of the firstborn, and it's a haunting sequence. The fog going through. Again, in an era where you don't have computers. The visual effects are pretty impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they, for the time, they hold up. But later on, at the Golden Calf apostasy, all of a sudden, they skirt around the issue. So, they show the death of the firstborn in all of its horror. And even though the Egyptians are the bad guys, we as Christians should not delight in the death of the firstborn. It's a terrible thing. It's a consequence of their own sin. But it's not something we should be like, yeah, showed you. This is awful.
Yes.
But, it's just. They were doing this to the Hebrews. They refused to let them go. This is what happened. God warned them. They refused to listen. At the Golden Calf apostasy, Moses comes down. He sees the orgy. He smashes the tablets. All good. But at this point, the golden calf in the film blows up.
I mean, you gotta have an explosion.
And kills all the revelers. I'm not against explosions. I was a kid in the 80s. It was a great time to be a film fan.
Yeah.
Things were blowing up all over the place.
I mean, at least it wasn't like Michael Bay's Ten Commandments.
Oh, man, that would be amazing. Mr. Bay, if you're listening, please do this.
Please.
All the quick cuts.
The only problem is that he does also have a tendency to over-sexualize characters occasionally.
So you're saying he should do his version of Judith?
Yes.
Well,
explosive 10-peg.
I will disagree with Nate. There's a grand total of one woman in The Rock. It's all male.
No, that's...
But she was a super sexy woman.
She was a super sexy woman, but it to me it struck me as an appropriate level given the culture of the time.
Fair enough.
Not ridiculous.
Fair enough.
Other than the inherent ridiculousness of all Michael Bay films.
Fair enough. I was mostly thinking of Transformers, but you are correct. There were other films that he's done where that was not a problem.
And it's clear that is by far his worst work.
Yeah.
Which, when you're talking about Michael Bay, that's saying something.
Yeah. Anyways.
Anyway.
But the Book of Judith, though. We're on for that one, too.
Mm-hmm. Judith is awesome. Yeah, she's the one who cuts off the head. Yale is the one who uses the 10 spike.
Ah, yes.
All right, but the real thing that happens at the Golden...
It's so hard to pay attention to which Old Testament woman murdered which despot which way.
They had it coming. But at the real Golden Calf apostasy, Moses had a call for who's going to stand up for God? Who will do this? And the Levites rise up, and they're the ones who slaughter the idolaters, and that's why they become priests of God. So it's not just God is going to fix all of the problems. At some point, we ourselves have to step in and take action when things are going really, really off the rails. But now, they are taking dramatic license, so for the most part, totally fine. Except where it leads us astray from what the story is actually trying to tell us. But here's my biggest critique with the 10 Commandments.
It needs more epic things with 100,000 people in the background.
Awesome, hard to do. Yeah, I think they do actually a pretty good job of portraying the large number of Hebrews that are coming out of Egypt and the amount of treasure that they took from the Egyptians.
It needs the plundering of Egypt. Side plot of Moses' best friend who happens to be an Egyptian.
I like it. Possibly played by Buddy Hackett? Or maybe Jim Nabors?
Yeah. Oh, Jim Nabors.
Okay. So retroactively, we're going to put Jim Nabors into the... All right.
It's on our list when we get a time machine.
Listen, if you can have Edward G. Robinson chewing the scenery as Dathan. Yeah, see, I'm Dathan. Yeah. You could totally put in Jim Nabors basically just doing... what was his character?
Gomer Pyle.
Gomer Pyle. Totally. Even though this is like a decade before.
Golly!
Shazam!
He's just a foot soldier of the Egyptian army.
But the single biggest problem with the 10 Commandments is that it's not about the 10 Commandments. It's about the 10 plagues. The vast majority of the story deals with those chapters of Exodus. First, setting up all the soap opera in Egypt. The whole thing with Nefertiti. And then, the plagues that are used to break the spirit of Pharaoh.
I mean, having it be... If you had it from Moses's, perspective, having the whole film it would be really hard. It would be like when you're trying to talk about heaven. And if you had it from the people down at the base of the mountain, it would just be like, we're bored. We threw a bunch of gold in this fire. We got a golden calf.
It just happened.
That's our God.
It's
this is kind of boring.
It's the natural form of gold.
Don't you miss them?
According to the high priest himself.
You melt it down.
You get gold.
And you get a calf.
I don't know what happened, brother.
We threw the gold. They threw their gold in the furnace, and this is what came out.
Whereas it says a few verses earlier, there's Aaron. No. Listen,
I miss
I'm not
all the onions and leeks in Egypt.
I'm not saying that properly. I'm not saying that they don't do a good job of depicting the glory cloud on top of Sinai. Because again, given the technology of the time,
Yes.
Yeah.
I do like the writing of them with
no
that
pun intended. Holy
Pentagon.
smokes!
Literally, that was what it was conveying.
But the film is called The Ten Commandments, and yet they spend all their time on the flashy stuff of the 10 plagues. Which, again, from a Hollywood producer's perspective, I absolutely understand. If you're trying to make the biggest spectacle that has ever appeared on the screen, you're doing the right thing. Having Moses atop the mountain by himself for 40 days, I understand. Not riveting filmmaking. Although Werner Herzog could do it. But
you just need more character development amongst the Hebrews.
But again, the problem is this forms so much of our vision of the Exodus. If you were to engage with your friends in a conversation about the events of the Passover, and of course, the death and resurrection of our Lord is the true Passover. But if you're talking about the Exodus Passover,
like you do,
as one does, there's going to be a lot more conversation about the 10 plagues than about God giving the 10 commandments.
Well, I mean, it's the sizzle.
And it absolutely is the sizzle. And that's where we need to be careful. Again, great movie. But we can't allow, I'll give Cecil B. DeMille and his entire crew the benefit of the doubt. Even well-intended people, we can't let them form our religious imagination. We have to view these things through the lens of the church, see them the way that God wants us to see them.
Or wait a really long time, so it's old, like Dante.
And while the sizzle is
Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
While the sizzle is really interesting, what you really want in the end is the steak.
There's not steak, there's lamb. And bitter herbs.
Fair.
The steak, the steak.
Multiple cups of wine. I forgot how many.
The steak is a sin offering.
My bad. I forgot that this was a Passover theme.
The metaphorical steak.
You want the lamb and the bitter herbs and the flatbread.
Flatbread.
Yes.
But remember, gird your loins and eat standing up. So you're getting a sandwich.
Gotta be ready to go. Who doesn't love lamb on a pita?
I'm glad you brought up Dante, though.
I believe they call it the gyro.
Because in Dante, we see the exact same thing, both in popular culture and even when people are discussing the comedy.
It's all about the seven layers.
It's all
man.
about the Inferno.
Yeah.
You might get a little bit on Purgatorio, but most of it is going to be on the Inferno. Whenever there's a discussion, I mean, I just heard Bishop Barron talking on the art of manliness. Listen, I only listened because of Bishop Barron.
That does not change the.
We'll come back to it some other time.
But there's all the focus on the Inferno, none on the Paradiso.
It's because it's like a rose window. Here's how the rose window.
It's because everybody. It's because
everybody wants the 10 plagues.
Because everybody's really
the 10 commandments.
Because everybody's really into the dip. They want the 7 layers.
Well, everyone does enjoy a good complex dip. So, this Easter, by all means, watch the 10 Commandments. It's a tradition, little t, and it's a great movie. But please, get your understanding of the Exodus story from Exodus, not from Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments. Comment below with how wrong I am, that the 10 Commandments is great and we should get all of our theology from Hollywood. Give this episode a like.
That's just fact.
That's just obvious. Give this episode a like. Subscribe to our channel to be notified the next time a plot is uploaded. Ring the church bell for those notifications.
And until next time, remember to live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.
Yeah, pardon me. Yes, poppers. It's time to go outside again.
Yeah, he's a Levite. He's not Judean.
I just bumped the toe.
Yeah, they didn't get to the point where they're all called a Jewish yet.
Yeah,
You're fine.
exactly.
Yes. Also, the subplot with the Egyptian who's he hitched his wagon to the right horses, but in the worst way possible.
We can go back if you want.
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, in fact, I'm going to use this as a jumping off point to discuss some of the extra biblical sources.
Okay.
Are there forbidden books?
No, they're just not Bible.
Oh, okay. And I'm back.